One important thing that I think we should address is also quantum computers, because it has been very popular in the topic of how much is it a threat to Bitcoin, how much is it a threat to individual wallets. How do you think about, or what do you think about quantum computers?
Yeah, I end Defending Bitcoin with a chapter on quantum and AI. I consider those to be kind of emerging threats that are in the consciousness a fair bit, and they have some similarities. So I've made one chapter on the two of those things that are emerging, affecting the computing landscape. And the thing with quantum is that there are these people such as Nick Carter who are just fudding. They're saying that Bitcoin is doomed in 5 years, something like this, and the sky is falling. The cryptography is going to break on Bitcoin, and I think that side of things is maybe a little bit overzealous, and you can also follow the money a little bit. It looks like Nick Carter has some investments that would do very well if quantum were a real threat, sort of thing. So, but the problem is, it's not like they're wrong. It's just that the timeline for quantum computing isn't understood, and whether quantum computing is actually even going to get to a point where it can crack the cryptography of Bitcoin SHA-256 primarily, or the elliptic curve cryptography specifically that underlies Bitcoin. Whether it's possible that a quantum computer ever breaks that is unknown here. Now, there's some concrete evidence right now, and I mean, the papers keep flying. This goes through the news cycle uh, uh, in waves, right? Whenever there's some new bit of news, but the gist of it that the theoretical number of qubits, the building blocks of a quantum computer required to break SHA-256 cryptography, appears to be getting smaller and smaller. Right now, it's a number around 10,000 is being cited in some papers by Google, things like this. The number keeps dropping. But the thing is, a practical quantum computer doesn't really exist yet. And I think it's something like 10 qubits has been made in a lab, and it had a 2/3 success rate at finding the answer to 3 times 5. So that's pretty good. We'll I wonder if doing better than a 2-year-old is considered good at the moment. But yeah, my 2-year-old isn't doing multiplication yet, but we'll see. Maybe I'll report back when he can do better math than a quantum computer. But no, the thing here is that um, the idea that quantum computing might never actually reach the physical capabilities, because this is a physical problem as well. Quantum computers right now are gigantic. They're massive. They need to be cooled down to almost 0 degrees Kelvin. It's crazy, the amount of physical resources that need to go into this, and it's just not clear that simply throwing another billion, 10 billion, 100 billion dollars or euros at this problem is going to actually reach the result that say the fudsters I think is going to happen, which means breaking the cryptography of Bitcoin. Then you also have to think about what would happen if they get there, right? So I keep talking about if they get there. So what would happen is you would have to try to break one public key at a time with your big fancy quantum computer that is billions and billions of dollars, as all this investment takes tons of energy to work, right? And you have to target one key at a time. Now, first of all, what I also mean here is that the public key for your private key has to be known. So not all address types reveal the public key of the corresponding private key, especially SegWit by default. It doesn't reveal your public key. So there's all these legacy addresses that aren't hashed. That's the mechanism of taking your public key and turning it into something that can't easily be derived, but provable only by you. There's this whole set of addresses that leave the public key available on the blockchain, and that's the stuff that we're talking about as being vulnerable. But what you can do is that if you keep your Bitcoin in an address that is not quantum vulnerable, then it's much harder for them to be able to attack that, right? Then the other thing too is that as long as there's a UTXO that's bigger than yours, other people are in the crosshairs before your UTXO will be. And the funny thing about the whole quantum issue is that people keep talking about Satoshi's coins, right? That Satoshi's coins are this big juicy target, 1.3 million Bitcoin, something like that. Well, they're not all in one wallet. They're spread out across well, the mining rewards and all this, and I think it's like basically 50 Bitcoin at a time. Now, I mean, that's of course worth a lot of money, but it's not like someone is going to be able to one shot a million Bitcoin. They're going to have to tackle every single one of these 50, 25 Bitcoin chunks to be able to get at Satoshi's coin. So yeah, if this happens, okay, we're at something entirely unprecedented, and we're at a place where say there's going to be a massive gold rush. Everyone with a quantum computer is going to be going after the Bitcoin keys. Now, that isn't also to say that many other things in the world won't break. A quantum computer can break other things too. The whole internet relies on similar kinds of cryptography, right? But even if Bitcoin is the primary target, and the old Satoshi coins are at risk, well, okay, they still have to take a lot of time and energy to go after that Bitcoin, right? So the entire thing, that was a lot to say, that the whole thing is complicated. We might never get to a place where quantum computing actually is a real risk, but preparing for it is a good idea. And there's great work being done to create new types of signatures that you can move your Bitcoin to that are more quantum resistant. They all have trade-offs. They're all usually larger than current Bitcoin addresses, and so we might have to deal with some issues that you can't fit as many transactions into a Bitcoin block anymore. But there's work being done, and these proposals are ready. They're being tested. The implementations are hopefully going to come out soon, and so work is being done to mitigate the impact if something like this is going to happen. I personally think quantum might never really materialize and become an issue, and there are plenty of people who think the same thing. But in case it is an issue, we should prepare. That's one of the underlying things with cybersecurity. We're not thinking about the situation right now. Everything's good. We're thinking about what is the worst case scenario if something goes wrong. And with quantum, the worst case scenario is someone gets a quantum computer and is able to go after certain coins in Bitcoin, and then we have to deal with it. But extremely low likelihood.
With microseed, you can engrave your 12 or 24 word seed phrase, the entire seed phrase, onto a 1-inch small washer. Yes, just one washer. All 24 words on that one washer. You can hide that thing everywhere. And even better, you don't need to buy a new kit every time you have to get a new wallet. You can make unlimited backups, because microseed is not selling the washer. Microseed is selling the device that stamps the washer. So you get the full kit with the device, with the washers, with the hammer, with everything you need to get started today. And you can make with that unlimited amount of backups. Go now to microseed.io. I finally and officially mine Bitcoin. This is not just something to stack more Satoshis, but it's most importantly also to support the network. Individual miners are the ones that keep the Bitcoin network decentralized. And by the way, you get KYC free Bitcoin. That's why I use Simple Mining. I get an actual proper Bitcoin miner. They set it up for me. They repair it if it breaks down. And most importantly, they let me choose the pool and even connect my own full node. I'm completely sovereign and I'm completely in control, and I can sign up with Ocean. No account needed. I just give them a Bitcoin address and then there's mining going on. No KYC, nothing. So if you're ready to mine Bitcoin, go to simplemining.io, tell them you come from Robin, and let's mine Bitcoin together. Wow. How do I tackle that? It's so interesting because, like, first of all, if I get it correctly, it might not ever come reality, the quantum computer stuff. Then the second layer is, even if it becomes reality, it might not ever tackle Bitcoin because they invested a lot of money and a lot of time. Why would they go after Bitcoin? That's kind of the question. then like even if they go after Bitcoin, they most likely don't come after you personally. And then it's like, how likely is that case even? And then at that point, if they want to come after you, at that point, most likely Bitcoin already upgraded. You probably already have some quantum proof things going on. And so like an individual holding Bitcoin has to almost not worry at all. Just that very smart people in the Bitcoin ecosystem are preparing for this eventuality, and then we have to kind of upgrade the network. And even if then there's the whole debate about freezing coins. I think I've heard that. I mean, that was like a half a year or so. It was, I think, popular because I think Seyr made some statement on that. What is that about? Like, we have to kind of decide what we do with addresses that are inactive, not inactive, lost, and Satoshi's coin.
Yeah, that's an interesting aspect, and that's something that every Bitcoiner is going to need to philosophically decide which side they're going to come down on. For me personally, I don't think it's right to seize Satoshi's coins, or I think the more concrete solution, I think it's BIP 361 is the number. This was proposed by Jameson Lopp. Even he says he doesn't actually like the idea, but he wanted to get the discussion out there. It would freeze coins from a specific address type, pay to public key, and this one is all the addresses that are basically they're vulnerable. Their public keys are out there by default, and just say that if you don't spend them by a certain block height, move them to an address type that is at least more quantum resistant. SegWit would count, or maybe one of these other proposals in the future, that those simply get frozen and they're not allowed to be spent anymore. So even if you do eventually get access to your private key somewhere in the future, you can't move them. And that's the defense against the quantum computing. And the argument there is to say that, okay, well, you get a quantum computer, great, but you don't get to go after all of these addresses that we know exist, right? Okay, so fine. But that goes against the ethos that Bitcoin is immutable and it's an open, permissionless system, censorship resistant, and to a certain extent, these lost coins might end up being kind of the ultimate treasure hunt, right? If for those who do get a quantum computer, and it's not like you're going to get one in your garage or something like this. Like, this is going to be there's under 10 of them in the world right now, I think, that we know of, and how many are going to be getting to this level where they can do this all at the same time? Who knows? Maybe it's 2, maybe it's 3, maybe it's only 1. It's a gigantic treasure hunt, and what it does to the value of Bitcoin is also unknown too. Like, if people see these coins moving from quantum computing, is that going to tank the Bitcoin price temporarily? Hard to say. So yeah, I don't think freezing coins is the answer. It goes against the Bitcoin ethos, but I believe there will be multiple implementations that choose or choose not to do that.
So the biggest risk of not freezing coins would be cheaper sats. I'm all for that. So that would be a good thing, I think.
Sure. Well, I mean, but the opposite risk, right? If you do freeze the coins, what happens to that chain, right? I think cheaper sats is basically the risk, no matter what here, right? If quantum does kick in, we probably do get cheaper sats for a little while, just because of the chaos. And I mean, I talk about that separately. There's a chapter on governance, which is a complicated topic, and there's a lot going on right now with especially the governance of Bitcoin Core. There's some controversy about this, especially if you've followed Hodlonaut in the last few months. For example, he's been posting very, very good, well researched articles on this topic that I recommend and I cite. But the thing is, a chain split is basically the mechanism for disagreements to air themselves out in the market. If a group has enough of a disagreement with another group over a policy change or a consensus change, that's where the fork really happens. Individuals and groups have a mechanism of saying, hey, okay, I finally disagree with you enough that we're going to do a fork, and we're going to see what happens. And the end result of many forks is a chain split where a new blockchain splits off and is able to become tries to become the new Bitcoin, or they realize, okay, we're different now, we're going to become Bitcoin Cash or BSV or something like this, and it can happen, right? And the thing is, there's right now a fork proposal out there, BIP 110, or the reduced data temporary soft fork. And I mean, there's a lot of controversy over this, right? And the justifications, and what are the effects that this is going to happen. But ultimately, BIP 110 is a soft fork. It's tightening the Bitcoin rules, and technically everything that's valid under this BIP 110 is also valid under the current rules. So in order to split the chain, you would have to actually go against this soft fork, intentionally make transactions that break the rules of the new soft fork. So there's a lot of nuance to this, but ultimately my view is that splitting the chain and creating chaos is very much to be avoided if possible. It's not an ideal situation. It creates uncertainty in the market. I also lay out that in my view, there's four groups of individuals that sometimes overlap in Bitcoin that have to come to some agreement for a consensus to happen. One is the developers. These are the people who are kind of making the changes to the Bitcoin code, to consensus rules, things like this. Then there are node runners who choose to validate the rules or not. There's the miners who are creating the blocks and have to create compliant blocks, basically. And then finally, there's everyone who holds Bitcoin, and this can be, someone who's just using it for savings. This can be merchants. This can be exchanges. This is every actor that's holding Bitcoin. This is the market, and the market decides what to do in the case of a fork. If the market says that, okay, your new Bitcoin Cash thing, most people are selling that, so the price is going down, and the original Bitcoin, the price of that is going up, well, that has a result. People see that one is 100 times less valued than the other. Maybe it doesn't make as much sense to go the Bitcoin Cash route if you know nothing about the two coins otherwise, right? So the market's going to weigh in, and the case of a chain split is going to get messy, and how much hash rate, how many nodes, all this and that. It's complicated, and ultimately it splits the community, and we don't know what the outcome is going to be. And so I think any of these events, the biggest risk there, the real risk, sort of systemically, is that there's a lot of chaos, and the price goes down, and adoption gets hurt, and whether the effects are just temporary or maybe something permanent, it's impossible to know. So I advocate that if there is some kind of a fork or a potential chain split going on, just really do your research, and think hard about whether it's worth it to do that or support a fork that could result in a split. And it's the same thing with the quantum situation. Like, if quantum actually becomes capable of breaking the cryptography of Bitcoin, well, we're in for some chaos, and all we can do is be the most prepared about it that we can be. That's the bottom line.
Thank you for watching this video. This was only a snippet of the podcast. And if you want to watch the full episode and get all of the context of this episode, you can click right here or here. Oh, maybe also here.